Hello, everybody, and welcome back to all new movie news. Brian McDonald. I'm your host, Brian McDonald, and today we will be discussing that video that was supposed to release yesterday. Sorry, I've just been releasing them daily because I've just gotten caught up with all the research of the video and stuff, trying to find the articles and all that. So, yeah, it's been a busy week. But yeah, so let's get into the article. Today we'll be talking about the reason why the Percy Jackson Sea Monster could have been good for a certain reason and followed the book, but stupid screenwriters and directors and stuff, studio interference, everything just really caused it to be so stupid. So, without further ado, let's get into the article. So, this article was set all the way back in 2013, August 9th, 2013. So, yeah, it's really old. That's the reason why it took me so long to find an article on this stuff, because I've read this article before and I forgot what website it was. It's cbr.com. If you want to read this article yourself, you can view it on the video while I'm reading. You can read it as well on there. So, if you want to, read along. So let's get into it. Mark Guggenheim resets the board for Percy Jackson Sea of Monsters. Okay, now I know it is. Screenwriter Mark Guggenheim talks with Spin-Off Online about Percy Jackson Sea of Monsters, saying the second film in the series works to tell a standalone adventure that defies Harry Potter comparisons. In Hollywood, it's hard to keep a good sequel down, but when crafting a film in a series that's also an adaptation of a beloved book, the work of pleasing audiences gets more difficult to a mythic degree. That's part of what screenwriter Mark Guggenheim had to work with while drafting the story for Percy Jackson Sea of Monsters. Director Thor from the Frenthal, I don't know how to pronounce that one, adaptation of the book in Rick Riordan's insanely popular young adult series, which opened in theaters this week. 3 years after The Lightning Thief started, the story of the demigod son of Greek deity Poseidon. The task of adapting the Sea Monsters was uncertain. When the initial attempt at a screenplay failed to please producers, Guggenheim was tapped to get the Logan Lerman vehicle, which also stars Brendan T. Jackson, Nathan Fillion, Stanley Tucci, and Anthony Head, back on track. The resulting film shows inspiration from both the Sea of Monsters novels and other moments from the Percy Jackson series to reintroduce the world of teenage half-bloods, ancient prophecies, epic monsters, and the quest for the Golden Fleece. And as Guggenheim told Spin-Off Online, the goal of the film was to stand alone and give audiences a fresh start in a crowded marketplace of sequels and reboots. Below, the writer explains how he wrote a fine line between loyalty to the novel and making a great action film. How the casting of a fan favorite like Fillion, which is Nathan Fillion, affected the characters, and why Percy is much more than a Harry Potter rethread. Spin-off Online. Mark, coming into Sea of Monsters, there was a lot of considerations to be made. It's not just a big action movie, but a sequel and an adaptation that a lot of young readers have expectations for. What were the goals and even more marching orders you had when it came into the process of writing the film? Mark Guggenheim. I guess the biggest marching order I had came because I was brought in after they already had a draft of the script, which quite frankly didn't work. We had a very, very short amount of time to basically write a whole new movie. So first and foremost, I had to think wholly of a wholly different way of adapting the novel. With the draft that was originally done, the only thing wrong with it was too faithful to the book, which is stupid because you would have made more money on this movie. And I want to be clear in what by I mean by that. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are fans of books who will go, it was so faithful to a book that's actually perfect. What could possibly be bad about that? And the answer is that anytime you adapt a story from one medium into another, you have to approach totally fidelity at your peril. Fidelity can be a very good thing, but it more often than not, you find the strengths of the medium you can turn into weaknesses once translated. As an example, from Percy, in the original Sea of Monsters novel, the character of Grover basically spends half of the book away from Percy. When the novel begins, Grover is not at Camp Half-Blood. He's off on a quest to find the Golden Fleece, and he only interacts with Percy via this telepathic connection that the two of them have. That's something that can really only work in a novel. It's very hard to make that work in a motion picture. No, it's not. For me, I felt like we had the character of Grover, one of Percy's close friends, who held true to the book, wouldn't be seen by audiences for half the movie. For a movie-going audience, that would have been very unsatisfying. Not if you're the fan. There's my issues with it. So it's those various examples of differences between what works for a book and what works in a movie and vice versa. Now, literally, that thing he's talking about, Grover, they did the same thing with Hagrid, and it worked out for Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So that makes sense. It makes more sense to do it that way because it turned out perfect for Harry Potter. I know us fans hate the Harry Potter comparisons, but it still worked out, and it's another adaptation. That's why I'm using it. It adapts the book with all the iconic moments that make a special, while still telling it in a way that works for a motion picture. On the front end, there is a core to the Percy Jackson books in general, with their mix of action, adventure, and Greek myth that everyone knows. What did you view as the sacred elements of the series that had to appear on screen no matter what the changes took place? I think first and foremost, you put your finger right on it when you talk about the tone. The tone of the books is very specific mix of adventure, comedy, and wish fulfillment in the form of the idea that any kid can be half-blood with all the powers of the gods that entails. And then there are just moments from the book that are kind of iconic. Basically, you need a certain number of these elements, though there's no magic number to it. It's probably to properly reflect the novel. For example, it's really important to Percy to have an encounter with Hermes and with Polyphemus, the Cyclops who guards the fleece. One of the moments from the novel that we put into the movie that wasn't even critical to the story was but was iconic in that it was the fan favorite was Grover dressed up in a wedding dress, and you won't mean that won't mean anything unless to you unless you see the movie or read the book. Laughs. But overall, you just want to stay true to the essence of the book, and since it is a very tough thing to define, but you know it when you see it. I do not feel like we hewed very closely to the essence of the novel. That was something at the forefront of all the minds as we were working on the script and during the filming. And I'll say that reasonable minds may differ, and if you look on the internet, they already have. But I feel like we really got that essence of the book and series. I even, I even though in little nods to specifics of the book, like when Thalia has a big scene later in the movie, her dialogue is a word for the books. There's also a scene where Chiron takes Percy to see the oracle to find out about the prophecy that relates to him. That scene is word for word from the first novel. Actually, the prophecy was something established in the first novel that was dropped from the first movie. But I felt it was important to include it in the second movie. Actually, this guy's an idiot. He's obviously never read the books because, yes, it's mentioned, but it's not fully word by word in the movie because they don't go into the prophecy fully until the final book of the first series, which is The Last Olympian. This shows you how bad this guy did his research. He probably just read it online. Um, that relates to him. The scene is where from. So when it came time for that scene, I opened up my copy of the first novel in the series, Lightning Thief, and cribbed the scene word for word. It's not because I'm lazy, but I thought that the fans would appreciate the attention to detail. This guy is an idiot. The Lightning Thief never had that. It mentions there's a prophecy about Percy, but it's never revealed partially what the prophecy is about until the second book. But it doesn't go word for word until The Last Olympian. This guy's an idiot. As you said, you came in after a draft had been done. Did that allow you to know a bit more about the particulars of the production as you wrote? I know Nathan Fillion's casting as Hermes got the attention of his fan base. Were you able to write the scenes with him in mind? I'm going to skip this one. Yeah, it's getting boring right now. I don't want to hear anything about that because it's not important to this story. Often with Hollywood sequels, you're living up to expectations of topping or responding to the first film. I feel like adapting a book series like this is different because audiences expect the movies to grow and mature with each film, just like the books do. Did your adaptation come together with that idea that you were building the track for the long-term life of the series? No, in fact, because there was so much of a time gap between the first movie and the second one, it was all of our intentions to approach the movie from the standpoint of having it stand on its own terms. We didn't want to presume any familiarity with either the first movie or the book series, apart from a couple of lines of dialogue that make a nodding reference to the first movie. We worked to make this a story that stood on its own 2 feet, that presented its own unique challenges from a sequel perspective, because we're so used to living in a world of reboots or movies that build on a pre-existing set of movies. Here we are looking at opposite approach of saying, let's make a movie that doesn't require having seen the first one at all. Let's let people enjoy this on its own terms. There are a ton of popular YA novels that are making it to film these days. From Twilight to Hunger Games, and I feel like Percy Jackson has sat within the group of hit series while also drawing a lot of comparisons to other franchises like Harry Potter. We're done. Did those considerations impact you at all while writing? The truth is, reading the reviews of the movie, there have been some of that are very positive, but there's also that there are negative trend to the premised on the opinion that the Percy Jackson series is just a cheap knockoff of Harry Potter series. And I don't think that's a fair comparison. For one thing, the two franchises differently have their differences. And for another, this series is very beloved in its own right. It may not be the wide-ranging cultural phenomenon that Harry Potter was, but it's pretty darn close. If all this was a cheap Harry Potter knockoff, the series wouldn't have had many fans as it does. So I encourage people to go and see the movie and its own terms without the baggage, because that's how it was designed. And what the two series have in common more than anything else is the very basic Joseph Chamberlain hero's journey at their heart. There's a wish fulfillment in what that of each starts with a secret destiny. But that's hardly something that it was invented in Harry Potter. It's an age-old story, and the Percy Jackson series puts its own unique spin on it. You've been working on the film, but you've also got your day job running Arrow for the CW. At this point, are you looking to continue with more future work or even more Percy Jackson, considering how much writing you're doing for the show? I have to say, this has been a dream experience. Ken Rosenfeld, the producer, and Thor Fernand, the director, are and our studio for Fox 2000 were great to work with. It's funny because my feature agent keeps saying to me, this isn't not a bad typical experience for me for features. It was seriously one of the professional high points of my career. But I wrote the original draft of the movie almost 2.5 years ago. I just dropped my phone. All right, 2.5 years ago, and I've continued to write movies since. While doing production, rewrites on Percy. For example, I wrote a draft of of the Perry Mason movie for Robert Downey Jr. and Warner Brothers. I have a couple of screenplays on my desk at the moment too. So it's definitely something I've been juggling alongside Arrow. I'm not going to say that there weren't times where I wish I was getting more sleep. Alright, yeah, that's it. Alright, I'm not reading no more. Sorry about the long video, guys. So yeah, guys, a lot of the issues there. This guy clearly does not know anything about filmmaking and pleasing fans. Because if you please fans, you're going to get a lot more money, and that's what the studio's worried about. This guy literally does not know anything about the book. He didn't even read it. He opened The Last Olympian, not The Lightning Thief. I'm just like, what in the heck? Now, yes, there is a prophecy in the first book, but it's an entirely different prophecy than the movie. So it was just stupid. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're wondering who that, what are the movies or something, that girl who plays the Oracle of Delphi, well, there is one thing I can tell you. She was on an episode of NCIS. I can tell you that voice was. So that's just something. But yeah, I'm real excited for the Percy Jackson Disney Plus TV show. It boggles my mind how stupid these writers are and stuff. When we could have had something better, heck, they would have changed around age, of course, but they would have followed the book a lot better. And that's what sucks about this shit. We almost got a more faithful adaptation, and we could have continued this for the rest of the series. Stupid studio. They shouldn't have gotten this guy. Actually, I don't think. It's studio's fault in the first place for hiring an actor who wouldn't write the adapt the whole book. Just because Grover isn't in there. Heck, there's actual scenes with Grover throughout the book. They're called dream sequences. Yeah, you guys forgot to put it in the first movie. But it's just, they did their homework poorly on these movies. Especially that guy saying it was in the Lightning League. It was in the Last Olympian. It's just weird. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. Please like, share, subscribe. Also, hit that bell beside the subscribe button. Click on, be notified every time I upload a new video. Please leave a like as well. Likes will help my channel out, and it will suggest my content to more people. So just help out by that. And also share it so it can get to more people. We're on the road to 200 subscribers. So please subscribe. And if you want to talk Percy Jackson down in the comments, I'm fine with it. Because I will geek out with you over it. So do that if you want. And also hit that bell beside the subscribe button. Click on and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you. This is Brian McDonald signing off. I'll see you out there, movie lovers.